Hey guys, Mackay here with Ironside Ranch. Today we're going to talk about the first 5 things you need to know before you buy a new tractor. When I talk about buying a new tractor, I'm talking specifically to those small farmers, those small livestock owners, guys that are just getting your first tractor. If you've already got a tractor or you've been doing, I got grease on my hands. If you've already got a tractor or you've been doing this for a while, then you know already what you need, and so this isn't really going to help you. This is for those guys that are looking at buying your first tractor. You're trying to get set up to run a farm, and you just don't know what to look for. So the first thing, like I said, picking out your horsepower. The horsepower that we want is going to be a very debated question, right? There's some advantages and disadvantages both ways you go. A lot of people will tell you buy the largest tractor you can buy. Well, that's not necessarily great advice, because if you're dealing with terrain like we do, we're clearing, we've got lots of logs in the way, we've got steep hills, we've got unsteady hills, we've got lots of unsteady soil. A tractor any bigger than this is actually really hard to maneuver on our land, and it will be for the next couple of years until we get some more clearing done. Now, once we get a little bit more clearing done, we'll probably end up buying a second tractor that'll be a 60 horsepower tractor. But we still probably will use this for most of our land clearing because it's so much easier to maneuver in and around those areas that this is a really good fit. The other thing is that if you're just going to be on a hobby farm or even just a small farm, you don't need a lot of tractor. Look at Greg Judy's farm. He went years without even having a tractor. He did everything with an ATV. You don't really need a lot of tractor, so why spend your money on something that you don't need? There's other things you need to be spending your money on. And so buying the biggest tractor you can is not necessarily great advice. So how do you appropriately size the tractor for what you have? If you're on something less than 20 acres, honestly, even in Alabama where everything grows like crazy and we have thick trees and lots of logging to do, a 30 horsepower, 35 horsepower tractor is plenty for everything that we need to do here. Like I said, this one's 28, and there's not many times I wish for a larger tractor. In those instances that I do, I can go rent one, but this one has a lot of advantages. For one, the parts are a lot cheaper on these smaller tractors. Class 1 Hitch implements are a lot cheaper, and the fuel efficiency of this, I can run this for days off of 1 tank of gas, and so the fuel efficiency is vastly superior to larger tractors, things that are 60, 100, 120 horsepower tractors. There's a substantial difference. Now, a 40 horsepower tractor is a good all-around tractor. It's kind of a multi-tool of tractors, and so multi-tools tend to be good at everything but not great at any one thing. A 40 horsepower, 45 horsepower tractor, they tend to fall in that category. They're a great all-around tractor. We went with the smaller one for a couple reasons. One, this was all we could afford at the time. 2 is, again, the maneuverability on the property. And 3, because we have every intention of buying a larger tractor later on that can potentially run haying equipment. And a 40 horsepower tractor is still a little bit small for most haying equipment. And so we're going to end up looking at something in probably the 60 or 70 horsepower range at a later date, and we'll end up having 2 tractors. 2 tractors gives us some redundancy for feeding in the wintertime, and so that's eventually the goal. But right now, this is what we have. A tractor this size would fit 90% of most people's needs that have anything less than 100 acres. And even more than 100 acres, if you're up north where it's a lot of flat land and you don't really need to run these huge pieces of equipment behind you, other than like a batwing mower, which again you need a big tractor to run those. You're not really dealing with being practical on that side until you get significantly more land. So, and when I say significantly more land, I'm talking about 150, 200, 253, 500 acres, whatever, things that are going over that amount. Now, this obviously is not talking to commercial guys that are running 5,000 acre ranches. They've already got their tractors, they know what they need to know. This is a different story, different discussion. This, we're gearing towards kind of hobby farmers and just small ranches trying to get set up. Good tractor for the money, something like this is perfect for what you need. So stick to around those 30, 35 horsepower tractors. The other thing is that they're drastically easier to drive. So if you're inexperienced with tractors, these are much easier to drive and maneuver than something like a 60 horsepower tractor. Don't go crazy on tractors. I certainly wouldn't go over about 45 if I was just running a small farm. It just doesn't make sense to do. Okay, if you're really new to tractors, this is your 3-point hitch on the back end of the tractor. So we'll do other videos on how to properly set this up at a later date. But basically, we have our top link up here. So this hooks onto the top of our 3-point equipment, and we have two side arms here. These hook on and slide over the pins, or if you have a quick connect on it, they'll slide on over that. But these are what hold the implement on the rear. Right here, we've got a PTO shaft. This is what spins, and this is what powers the majority of our equipment. Let's see if we can get a little bit better view of that. Maybe that'll help you out. So that's what powers the majority of our equipment, and so that's going to power your augers, your tillers, your bush hogs, your mowers. Everything can be powered straight from that. And so this is where we're talking about the parasitic loss on our PTO. Down here, we have our drawbar. This is just a toolbar. I keep a shackle on mine. Some people keep a hook or a ball for a trailer or something like that. But these shackles, because we do so much logging, these what we hook the chains to drag logs out. And so these are obviously very important features. One thing that I do recommend you do when you install yours is a lot of them will come with a piece of bar stock here with a pin through it to hold them on. Those pins get ripped out whenever you're in rough terrain, so replace that with a grade 8 bolt on there, an appropriately sized grade 8 bolt with lock nuts and lock washers on there, so that way this thing is not coming out of there anymore. You'll find that a lot of the pins on your tractor come apart like that, so things that you don't take apart very often, I've replaced, as I've lost them, I've replaced them with grade 8 bolts that we've then put lock nuts and lock washers on to take care of that. So don't feel bad as you lose pins and stuff, it's just going to happen. Okay, so the next thing to talk about is getting a front end loader. Do you need a front end loader? Well, front end loaders are very expensive to add after the fact, and in some cases you can't even find them, and so it's virtually impossible to add after the fact. And so I like a front end loader. I think a front end loader is worth every penny of it. And personally, unless you have multiple tractors, I think you'd be making a big mistake to buy a tractor without a front end loader. I would do one every single time without question. At a minimum, you want 2 hydraulics on there, so obviously the boom and the tilt for the loader. If possible, get the third one on there so you can run a hydraulic top link, or you can run a grapple on the front, snow plows, stuff like that. And so definitely having, we're going to be adding a third set of hydraulics to this tractor here in the near future, and we'll go over that video at a later date. The front end loader, you know, they have quick attach. This one's a quick detach and quick attach one from John Deere. I've actually never taken this off. I don't ever take it off. I don't really see much need to. I suppose if you were doing a lot of mowing or something, it might be convenient. But to me, it's easier just to unhook the bucket on the front, because then you save yourself all that space up there and just leave the front end loader on. That's a lot easier. So personally, I don't ever take it off. I just don't feel much need to. But take that for what it's worth, whatever you want to do. But get a front end loader. They are worth their weight in gold. Anybody that's ever owned a tractor will tell you that once you have a front end loader, you can't really go back without it. You increase what your tractor can do so much more. This is by far the most used implement on this farm, and the exponential growth of what your tractor is capable of doing is just out of this world with a front end loader. So make sure you get one with a front end loader, especially if it's your only tractor. And again, if you're watching this video, it's your only tractor. So having that, I guess there's not much more to say on that, guys. We use ours for feeding hay, for unloading manure, for spreading gravel, for maintaining our driveway. We've built a parking pad on the other side of the road for our pole barn to go. We needed this to do that with. We'll use this for burying livestock if they die, because you can dig with these. There's just a lot of capabilities with them. So front end loader is definitely in our list of necessities for a tractor. So that kind of ties us into our next section here, the hydraulic line. So we can see we have, here, let me get over here, 4 hydraulic lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4 hydraulic lines going there to these. So that's 2 sets of remotes. So one being a supply, one being a return for each section. And that's our hydraulic lines for the front end loader. We'll be adding a third set to this tractor here, and like I said, we'll do a video on that. But whether you get the front end loader or you choose to ignore me on that, make sure you have hydraulics. Again, it's very expensive to add that after the fact, and so you want a good set of hydraulics on there, because the hydraulics allow, or hydraulic controls, because hydraulics allow you to do other things like running a hay spear on the back of your tractor, running pallet forks, stuff like that. Because otherwise, the only hydraulics that you have is actually what's attached to the 3-point hitch to raise and lower the 3-point hitch. So we want to make sure that we have hydraulic controls on this tractor already. If we don't have the front end loader, we definitely want to have that capability, because those are very expensive to add after the fact. And there's a lot of things that you can run with remotes on there, with hydraulic remotes, that even without the front end loader would be very useful. So at a minimum, get the hydraulics on there and make sure you have that. 4-wheel drive or 2-wheel drive? This is our fourth question on here. Do we want a 4-wheel drive tractor or a 2-wheel drive tractor? Now, in my eyes, 4-wheel drive is, again, worth every penny, and I'll probably will, no, we shouldn't say never, but certainly if I was only going to have one tractor, I would want 4-wheel drive. Even with 4-wheel drive locking differentials and these big off-road tires, and we still have found the tractor got stuck. We've still had to have it towed out before. It just happens, guys. The terrain that we're dealing with is really, really rough. Now, you may not have as rough a terrain as we do, but one of the things that you gain with the 4-wheel drive is the ability to really control loads when you have a really heavy load on the front of your loader that raises the back up, and you end up spinning your tires out a lot. And some of the hills we've tried to climb, we just haven't been able to climb it without trying to put it in 4-wheel drive. So tractors, even though they're big, they have big tires, you can get away without having 4-wheel drive the way that you can't with like a vehicle. But in 2-wheel drive tractors with tire chains can go up a lot of places. But 4-wheel drive to me is worth every penny, especially if you're going to have a front end loader. Now, if you're buying a tractor that's used for maintaining fields or something like that, and you don't need the front end loader, and you're not running a farm, you're doing it for like a deer plot or something like that, it's a different story, and you can really get away with the 2-wheel drive tractor, and you can do a lot of field maintaining, so things like haying and you know, disking up your fields and stuff like that. You can do that with a decent sized 4-wheel or off-road, or I'm sorry, 2-wheel drive tractor without the need for the 4-wheel drive. But if you're doing anything that has land clearing involved, you're converting a farm, you have any type of rough terrain on your property, you need the 4-wheel drive, and especially if you intend on using that loader for a lot of loading and unloading, you need that 4-wheel drive. Absolutely worth every penny, and again, even if you get a smaller tractor, you'll do more with a smaller tractor with 4-wheel drive than you can do with a larger tractor with 2-wheel drive. Now finally, fifth, we're going to talk about old versus new. Do you buy an old used tractor, or do you go buy a new tractor? Personally, for me, tractors get beat up, guys. I don't see a bunch of need buying a brand new tractor. The only advantage you get there is financing, and you can spread out the payments over years, but because these are financed new tractors and it is used ones. But to me, buying a used tractor has all the advantages of buying a used car. You let somebody else take the depreciation of that sticker price off there. So I would personally buy used. I would personally buy older without the emissions stuff on there. A lot of that emissions crap has just gotten so much in the way. I choose to buy tractors that don't have computers on them. I don't see any reason for a tractor to have a computer, to have check engine lights and that sort of thing to tell me what's going on with it. So I elect to buy tractors without a computer on there. And those chickens are driving me crazy. So that's why I like old tractors. I don't want to go into regen mode. I don't want check engine lights. I don't want any of that crap. I want a fuel pressure or a fuel gauge. I want a temperature gauge, and I want to be diligent about checking my fluids. Short of that, I don't need the tractor to do that for me. Now, if you start dealing with bigger tractors and you're running commercial farms, again, those are different discussions to have. We're talking about small farms and hobby farms. So I hope that helps you guys out, that y'all that are buying new tractors. I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of a guidance on this. We'll try to keep this video somewhat short. Really appreciate y'all watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. That does really help us out. And again, thanks for watching, guys. Oh, check us out on Facebook. We are up on Facebook. Amanda Lynn does like to post over there. So thanks for watching.